Wow, I really wired up a machine here.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm seeing it.
and here that's great. Hey there, Rainbow Paint.
Hey there, Tech.
Uh, I've never decided on a nickname to call you. Um,
So many
like
possibilities.
Rainbow, Paint, Bow, Rain,
Rainy.
Rainy,
Sammy is my real name.
Sammy. I like
Yeah.
Sammy. I'm gonna try to let's see if I can remember to call you Sammy while we talk.
Okay.
Um, just so you know, if you see me typing, it's not because I'm not paying attention to. It's actually because I'm taking notes. So I just want to let you know.
Oh, that's kind of sweet. Okay.
Yeah, the because sometimes like I'll need to sort of like put things together, and so it's nice to be able to like lay it out and see it.
Perfect. Note number one,
Um,
she crazy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the other thing that I feel like I should dispel for two reasons. One, just because just my impression of you, I feel like you might think about this, and two, everyone seems to have this impression. Um, is that like these tentacle tantras are really sort of like, yes, they are content, but really they're like a way that I'm trying to provide value to my community, and the way that I'm providing that value is like directly to the individual. So like in this case, like this is for you. So please don't feel like you have to perform or like there's some like something good for my content. Like it's really just about like what's going to benefit you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Thank you for precursing. I don't have that impression, by the
Okay,
way.
cool.
It's kind of the same thing as my gasm emotes. It's just like, yeah, it turns into content, but it's like a way that I'm like, hey, I can't drop the subs like everyone's doing, but I can make you an emote because I like
Totally.
you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I love
like
that. I relate to that a lot. Like I see whales in people's chat and I'm like, I want to be a whale, but I'm not I can't yet. I don't know I'll make enough money.
I
Um
know,
yeah.
right?
So what would you like to talk about today, Sammy?
I don't know. What do you, I send you like a list of things that I like you might be interested in talking about. Like I don't
Totally.
know if there's a specific one you wanted to poke at a bit more or
I mean, we could. Is there anything that is currently on your mind? Anything that you're currently working through that I might be able to help you with?
um I mean always.
Like
Always.
what?
I don't want to talk about it. I should precurse this because we'll probably touch on it a little bit. As I did go through a breakup last week, so that is definitely on my mind. But I don't
Oh
really
no.
want to go into it on like something that will be public.
That's totally fair.
But just
Yeah,
fair to the other person as well.
totally.
But that is something just so we don't have that weird mix up in the middle of any talks. But I'm
For
sure you
sure.
saw my. I think I listed in the things to talk about, and you might have seen it on social media. But I am actually approaching my 1 year of leaving an abusive relationship, so I'm actually really excited about that and ready to
Totally.
celebrate because it's been a year.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's
I
awesome.
I be Thank you. I'd be down to talk with some of that stuff. We can also talk about childhood stuff too. It's like I have that speech disability. I think you were curious about that one too, and just kind of how that affected how I grew up, I guess, and
Sure.
my core personality. And yeah,
So like and again, like I definitely want to respect any boundaries, but like I guess like I just want to like how are you? How are you doing?
um, good and bad.
Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
been a time.
Yeah.
It's
I
been
mean,
a
last week
time.
that's pretty raw.
Yeah, I ended it, but it's like, and I was like ending it on a really good note, but then it turned into a little bit of a bad note, and that's just like I've had some waves on that. So
For sure.
because I like to end it on good notes, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So uh, that strikes my curiosity. Uh, why do you? I know this seems like a dumb question, but why do you like ending things on good notes? Why is that important to
Well, because you shared memories, right?
you? Mm-hmm.
They were someone of huge value to you in your life at some point. If you dated for a while. Like they had to have been. If there's love there, it should stay there to some degree. Like my first significant other, like we can't be friends, but we're still like in a weird way family. Like he checked this past year, like I said, like I went through that the abusive one, and like he checked in on me. You know, he sent me support in any way he could because it was like one of those big moments. And even if you don't talk every day, you're still, you care and you want good things for the person. And you know, it's so easy in a breakup to just sit there and go and point out all the bad things.
Mm-hmm.
So easy to do that.
Yeah.
But
Hard
there's
not to,
so
in
much
fact.
good, right? It's really hard,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
so
that's, yeah.
I'm gonna take a like a poke in the dark here, and you tell me if I'm at all on track. But um, I know that for me, in realizing that like every sort of like bad thing has sort of like a good reason behind it, you know, like horribly abusive people have like, you know, grew up in horribly abusive situations, and therefore like it, you know, it's sort of, not that it makes it excusable, but like it just it like it you can always sort of like trace it back. It makes it really hard to sort of feel the feelings that you want to feel. Do you struggle with that at all? Did that question make
For,
sense?
because to some degree, there's a few different directions I thought you were going to go with that. For the abusive one, like you're asking specifically like the after effects of the abuse and trying to feel the feels and
What I'm really asking is like you're talking about something that I think is really sort of evolved of you, which is that like you don't you don't like sort of demonizing the people that you were in relationships with, because like there was love there, and like they're like a person, and like they have their reasons that like these things were the way that they were. And yet I find myself concerned for you in the idea that 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 may hold you back from being able to sort of feel the feelings that you want to feel. Does that make sense?
that does actually make sense. Yeah, it does. Because it's like, I think, oh, it's been a while since I've gone through a breakup like this, a normal breakup.
Sure.
um, you want to yell at the person. Actually, no, even like when I left the abusive one, it's like I didn't really argue back. And like he really tried to get me to, because it's like a whole other level of mental mind fuck, right? To
Yeah.
get someone to like pull out of themselves and then to like destroy that part. But um only near the end I started even saying stuff, and it was before I even understood and accepted what was happening. And so I'd never really, there's so many times where I don't get to tell them how much I hate certain parts of them, and I just kind of swallow it up. And but like, what's the point in telling them? Like if it's something that'll help them in the future, I get it. But if it's something that just is like I'm mad at them, it's like it's not going to fucking help them. It's not going to help me by telling them. I'm still going to be hurt that it happened, you know. And
Yeah. So again, like I think that you have a big brain, Sammy, that in that you're saying like, and big heart, in that you're saying like me saying these things isn't going to like help them or like better them in any way. So like what's really the point in saying it? And I guess the I agree with that. I think that in many cases, like, you know, screaming or telling them what a horrible person they are isn't going to have much effect. And I also think that something that happens a lot, like it happens constantly throughout our days, and some are just sort of bigger than others, is that we don't we feel emotions and we don't get a chance to sort of digest them or like metabolize them, and so they end up like staying with us.
I
And
could see
one
that.
of
Yeah.
yeah, and so like one of the things that for people like you who are like so considerate um and you know like want to do everything to like benefit people as much as you possibly can. One of the things that I see happen a lot is you get stuck with all of this undigested emotion that just festers in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What's that like?
Frustrating because like you could say it's like you could say it's big brain or whatever. It's like you know you're doing the right thing and it takes effort to do it, but you don't feel like a better person for it either. You just kind of feel like it's basic human decency and
Sure.
like not in a mean way. Like it's just you're just like I'm just doing what I feel like I should be doing.
Yeah.
So it's not even a pat on your back thing, and it's
And
like
and like it's got to be even more frustrating that like basic human decency that you're just like, yeah, like this is just what I should do, is not shown to you in a lot of cases.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I tend to get cranky and because it's like I make it easy for people sometimes, and it's like I don't know. I've had people describe it as like like if you've probably heard it is like if you're a floor mat, people just like they still won't be happy. They'll be like lay flatter, and it's like sometimes I just very much feel like that, and I just it's so frustrating because it's oh man, like I've had fallout with friends like that too, where you try and do the nice thing, make it as easy as possible, listen, communicate, try and evolve, offer apologies, offer solutions, and it's just nothing is good enough. And then you're just mad because you could have just screamed at them.
Yeah.
And you put that energy into doing these other actions, and then it's just it made no difference. And you're just like, I could just screamed at you too and put hurt onto you, and I didn't. And I'm like, you kind of wish you did sometimes. And
So Sammy, is it possible to be strong in who you are and not be like a doormat like you described and still be kind and compassionate and all of those
yeah,
great things?
yeah, I do stand up for myself a lot. I do. Not I definitely always learning in different ways. Different
Of
ways
course.
surprise me, of course.
Of course.
But I do learn to stand up for myself more and more. And I do assess these scenarios a lot because I'm just like, like I said, it's like the extra hurt comes from trying to do the right thing and not even making a difference. You're just like, maybe I should just distance from bad people next time instead of like trying to make it better if I don't think it's gonna resolve or I don't know. There's
Do you
yeah.
do you find yourself trying to fix bad people?
Um I find myself next to bad people and I'm trying to wrestle and figure out why the fuck that is. Um I'm really not sure how that keeps happening. Um and then I'm fighting more and more really kind-hearted people and they're just bursting into my life. The universe keeps sending them to me and I'm like, oh, holy crap, like maybe I don't have to be friends with like really mean-spirited people and I could actually be friends with like nice positive people who want good things in the world. And I didn't know there were ones that exist so abundantly out there. And I don't know, the universe sent them to me lately, so
Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad to hear that. Can I take another stab in the dark?
oh yeah.
Does it ever feel like scary or uncomfortable being in relationship, not like romantic, but like, you know, friendship, romantic, like whatever, just
Terrifying.
in relationship with people that are not bad?
Yeah, well I technically have like a lot of like I have trouble with friendships, but
Can you tell me more about that?
there's like that wall that you hit where you're just like, you can hang out, you can have fun, but how do you bring it to best friend level? And it's just like sometimes really hard. And I realized after my abusive relationship that I just kind of, because even we've talked about poly too. It's like, um, I'm polyhearted, but still, even then, it's like I could get crushes on people, but I won't get close to other people. It's like I'm just like, okay, I have a primary, I have a partner, and I'm just like loose, people that I'll hang out with, but not really close friends. And then
What makes something
I
best
don't
friend
know,
level?
hanging out, like, and actually being vulnerable and talking. And I did have one in California, like where I actually could go when I'm having sad days and sit in my PJs and we could just keep each other company. But it's like, I don't know, sometimes I just feel like I'm around instead of like actually there for people and or part of their group, or I don't know, that dabbler, like friends with everyone, but like not really close with anyone. And I think I put so much energy into a relationship, and I'm kind of like at a point now. It's like with the breakup too. It's like I'm almost at my 1 year of leaving my other ex, and I'm just like I'm ready to stand on my own feet where I didn't feel that before. I was like terrified to do that this past year, even like and like a long distance relationship was so perfect too because it was still like I couldn't get too close even though I
Mm.
wanted to. I just yeah, and I'm still not quite ready, but
So
I
let me see if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly. So what I'm hearing you say is that like it's not actually an issue of like people getting deep with you. Like you're actually you actually get you actually sort of like support people when they're sad and need help quite often. But when it comes to having a friend that is actually there when you're sad and when you need support, that you have a real hard time finding.
it's I struggle to do the things and share the vulnerabilities. And I don't know, I'm very like positive on a lot of authentic experiences and I try, but like I still when I message a friend, I feel like the worst burden in the world because it's like I just feel like I'm taking like good resources from their day and like putting them in a bad space because this stuff's contagious, and I just and you don't want to like get to that point where you're vulnerable and you're expressing and sharing and then they're like, what if they actually didn't want you to, or what if they get resentful of you for doing it and they just aren't telling you? Because some people are deceitful with how they're feeling. And I know it's not my fault if they are, but you know, you still fear it. You don't know which one they are. And then they'll pull that rug out from under you and then you'll feel really shitty. And they'll make you feel bad for it. I don't know. I have trouble
So
making space for me.
so it there's a whole lot going on there, but I think that one of the juiciest little nuggets that you just said is if I'm vulnerable, somebody's gonna pull the rug out from under me.
Yeah.
Has there been before the abusive relationship, because I'm sure that it happened in the abusive relationship, was there a time where you were vulnerable and somebody pulled the rug out from under you?
Just feels like all the time.
All the time. So can you think back and like what's the earliest time that you can remember?
Earliest. Ooh. Going like in like thinking it must be childhood. It must be somewhere.
It's
Nah.
always childhood.
Always childhood,
It's
right?
always childhood.
Jeez, I wonder.
Do you want to know why it's always childhood? Just to sort of break the ice a little bit, to sort of like come
Because
up for air for a second?
that's when your brain is developing and making those connections.
Yeah, sort of. So it's partially that, and it's also that as we grow, we get better and learn how to metabolize emotions better. And when we're young, we don't know how to do that. So when bad things happen, they just heckin' stick like super glue.
I mean, there's some smaller things, but I'm thinking about it. I think it was like my first significant other. I think
Your
it was.
that first really sort of abusive relationship.
No, no. I've had a lot. relationships. It's just,
Oh, okay.
yeah, no, there's the ex-husband or future ex-husband, divorce things. Um, but there is like my first significant other. It's like I met someone online originally. That was
Okay.
my first serious relationship. And that's the one I moved to California for.
Okay.
Um, but I put all this effort to get there, and once I got there, he just wasn't in it with me, and it was just, I don't know. It still hurts. Oh, it doesn't hurt as much, but I mean, I think it worked out for the best. But it just, you put so much love and affection into a person, and they're not there with you. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So you said something. You said something that I think sort of illustrates a cool idea. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time, what can happen is something bad will happen to us, and that bad thing sort of like we sort of keep it doesn't get digested. We sort of keep it, and then what happens is because that bad thing is just sort of sitting there in the middle of us, and we don't know how to get rid of it. We actually start sort of like building around it, and so like it becomes sort of the center of like sort of like what we function around. Like you have whole like cities like built around this thing. And so then what happens is then like when you talk about it later on, you don't really like feel a whole lot about it. And it's not that it wasn't like a significant thing. It's just that like now there's all this other stuff that is like that's hiding and sort of protecting this thing. And so the way to sort of start like getting at that thing is to find like a string where you actually like feel some emotion and just start pulling and unraveling. And eventually what happens is you get to that thing and then it all just like blah, bursts out and then you feel better.
Like Spirited Away, no face.
Yes. Yeah,
There's going to chug
exactly.
a bicycle out of there.
That is a beautiful analogy. Exactly. Absolutely.
So
Um,
you're a fan of that movie. I love that movie.
oh,
It
I'm a
kind of deals with
huge Studio
identity.
Ghibli fan. Howl's Moving Castle is like one of my wife
So
and my like ultimate like romance movies.
yeah. No, I love Spirited Away because they deal with greed and consumption and like identity and oh, I just love the themes in it. It's so beautifully done.
Totally, totally. So I'm hearing two different things here, Sammy. One of them, and I think that they're both true, and I just sort of want to dive into both of them, but I'm curious which one you want to sort of dive into first. One of them is I don't want to be vulnerable because I'm afraid that if I'm vulnerable, I'm going to get hurt again, which is perfectly legitimate. It makes perfect sense because you were vulnerable in the past and you did get hurt. And then the second one that I'm hearing is that I'm I'm not I'm not worth the burden that it is to be vulnerable. If I'm vulnerable, I'm taking up somebody else's precious time and energy, and I'm not worth that.
Ooh, when you phrase it like that, wow.
Does it hurt?
Little bit of like, yeah, like I probably should feel like I'm worth that space, shouldn't
Okay, I think that's a
I?
really good indicator. So like one of the things that I learned from my therapist that I find really useful is that like feelings are sort of like the psychological nerves. So feelings are signals that we should pay attention to that like whenever they come up like something is being told to us. And the more that we sort of pay attention and try to figure out like what they're trying to tell us, the like better off we'll be. So the fact that we struck a nerve there with I'm not worth it makes me think that we should dive into that one first. So
Yeah, actually, while you're talking to, I had another one like that stirred up too because you're asking where this origin came from. I had a friendship that fucking burned out of nowhere with like no notice. She just got sick of me one day,
was
just
this when
cut
you
me
were
off.
was this when you were like way
No,
younger?
actually, it was when I was like early 20s. She just one day got sick of me, didn't like me anymore, and yeah, she just got kind of pretentious on me, like I'm better than you, and just she was my best friend for a while, and so I just was like, okay, and she stopped being my friend on my birthday, which is like an extra, just like, ow, like, why do you mean? Why on my birthday? Why not like 2 days?
Yeah.
Like,
So like,
yeah, so
what
that's probably where that came
what
from.
what meanings did you make from that?
Not to trust. That's awful. Okay. Yeah. No, it just I don't even know what it was really about. She just didn't like my vibe anymore.
So here's another poke in the dark, just because of knowing you a little bit from this conversation, from previous conversations. I have a theory that you may have also assumed that you must have done something wrong, or that you must in some way
Yeah.
fundamentally be flawed,
I
because
must have done something.
otherwise why would people keep leaving? Does that feel right?
That feels right. There's something that keeps people from connecting with me, sticking around. Dating wise, I think I figured out what goes on there, but friendship wise, I'm still people wise.
So interestingly enough, I think that a lot of the time these things become self-fulfilling prophecies. So my theory is that there were many situations in your past where you really sort of like were vulnerable with somebody, and then they pulled the rug out from under you. And so then you started to say, oh, like I need to, like, your mind is smart. Like, it's like, oh, we keep getting hurt by doing this, we're going to stop doing this. And so then you stopped being as vulnerable. And so then when you were in relationships with people, they felt like they couldn't really get that close to you because you were protecting yourself, rightfully so. It makes perfect sense. And so then, because you weren't getting close to people and people kept leaving, you said to yourself, like, oh, like I must be a bad person. It must be something that I'm doing wrong.
That might make sense. Yeah. Yeah. And I do have patterns of that. Yeah. Like I remember like my the nice ex I just had. I remember one of the things in the bonding experience is I pointed out to him that I keep asking questions, but I kind of skip over answering them myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then like once they notice it, they're just like, wait a minute.
I've been talking this whole time. What's going
Yeah,
on?
I just can't poke at people. I'm like, hey, what's going on with you? And they're just like, wait a minute. So maybe
Yeah. Yeah. And what's even trickier is that now it seems as though you have fallen into an abuse pattern, which means that because you're sort of used to feeling you're used to what a toxic relationship feels like, that when you find another one you're like, oh yeah, this feels like home, this feels like where I'm supposed to be.
yeah.
And
I
so then
definitely
go ahead.
no, I definitely have those vibes. I have some growth on that this year, but yeah, and I can go
Good.
into that. I have had some growth.
Please, by all means, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's definitely, and it's like one of the things like anyone who has. So this past year, I had to learn how to reach out because no one knew I was in an abusive relationship. I left and I was in denial over it for like a few months, and then I kept calling like different hotlines, and then one day I just called the domestic abuse one. And they're like, "Yeah, no, you were in a domestic, like you were in an abusive relationship." I'm like, "I was," like, and I'm like, so you're calling their line, like I was, oh, like, and like I know it now, but I was like in such denial over it. Even like the things I said, I'm like it was so clear, but I didn't wasn't ready to face it. But so
Sammy,
after I left, I was, huh?
be careful,
Why?
because I think that what you might be doing there, and tell me if I'm wrong. I may totally be wrong, but what you may be doing there is actually beating yourself up and saying like, "Oh, I'm such a dumb person. I'm such a bad person for not recognizing that I was in an abusive relationship."
No, not quite. It's
Okay, good.
I think I'm good with that. I think I recognize like the brainwashing that goes into it and
Okay,
how those happen and
good.
I get how I got there and still shocked I got there.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't really know how that stuff happens, I guess. Till it's too late. Anyways.
that's what's so scary about them. Yeah,
That's so scary. It took long periods of time and brainwashing and like stupid.
yeah.
Um but no, it's I had to reach out afterwards because I just couldn't like I don't I haven't only a few people know. But my ex did take my kids from me for a while too. And so because like I left in September. And I was like, okay, when I fucking get started, let's get my life going, you know? And I'm like, yeah, bygones be bygones, end of relationship, let's move on. Like I do. I'm just like, yeah, I'm ready for the good things. And then he took the kids, and October was like a fucking nightmare. And I had to reach out because I couldn't be with my thoughts anymore. Like it was always such a safe space. And then
No, I can't even imagine that. That sounds. It's okay. That's what that
so
that's what this is for. So what I'm just gonna if you're okay with it, I'm just gonna like talk a little bit and sort of like let you experience this because I think that it's important. Um,
okay.
so the reason that we do this is because like this is this is what healing looks like. Like healing isn't pretty. Healing like the sort of I don't know. I'm gonna get on my soapbox about like toxic positivity, but like the sort of people that are like we just want rainbows and sunshine all the time. Like the reason that that doesn't work is because like
There's so much bad.
you gotta let the bad out in order to heal, in order to like let it go. It doesn't work to just sort of like shove it in a closet somewhere. And
Yeah,
so like
agreed. And
so this is good. This is good.
yeah, I think a lot of people, because of my happy vibes, very much confuse me with that type. And it's like I'm always like down to have those real comments, and it sucks.
For
It's
others.
if people want them, huh?
For others. You're down to have those conversations for others.
For
Right?
no, I'll say my own things, but it's like it does have to be like they want to hear them.
Mm.
I can't just I struggle with just saying them, but like I have learned more this year how to do that. But no, yeah, rainbow and happy, but it's like no, it's like I will talk about the real stuff and the hard stuff, and it's like especially like this stuff now, like with the abuse, it's like I want to scream from the rooftops so other people can know more what it's like, and then I'm going to try and find ways to contribute back to that. And but no, it's like I said, October was like so freaking. I don't know. One more thought on that last one is like the concept from Jung and stuff. It's like you a real person like you can't evolve unless you look at your darkness. If you never look at the darkness of like yourself or life, it's like you're never going to be able to really know yourself, and you're going to be in this state. It's just not real. You won't be able to move or transcend. And I'm explaining this awfully. I can explain it better, but I'm not.
No, no, I think you're doing a great job. Do
Thank
you want
you.
me
And
to like echo back what I heard?
sure.
What I heard was like if you're only looking at the light and you're never looking at the dark, like you're really only going to be seeing half of yourself. And so like if you ever want to be a full person, you have to look at the dark.
Yep. And if you do have darkness in you and you're ignoring it, it's just going to consume you. You're going to give
Yeah.
it power. That's how addictions happen, and a lot of people confuse how I am. They think I'm just looking at the light, but I've had plenty of dark, you know, and it's like I look at it and say, fuck that shit. Like I'm over here now. Like, and so it's like my whole thing is rainbows. Like after a storm comes a rainbow. Like there's tons of fucking crazy bad stuff in this world, and I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be part of that vicious cycle. There's so much bad going on all the time.
Yeah.
And I refuse to be a part of it.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I'm hearing you say that like you have to look at the light and the dark in order to sort of like be full. But I'm also hearing sort of in the way that you're expressing your actions that there is sort of some like running from the dark. Is that accurate, or am I misinterpreting that?
I wouldn't say running, just, you know, it's like I had this speech disability growing up and I was alone all my life. It just, so I don't know. And my therapist has picked up on that too with a lot of the fears of the abuse and stuff is it's linked to like being alone as a child and the anxieties of that. And just like, I don't want to be alone again, you know, because I've worked so hard to maybe run from that. Work so hard to try and connect and not be alone anymore. And so it does come out a little funky in my life sometimes, but that is like one of the big things is I don't want to be alone. I want to actually connect with people. And sometimes I have some fallbacks saying it's like maybe I should just turn everything off and just like hang on my own and just be that introvert I feel inside me and just read all day. And I watch anime and ignore everyone. And I'm just like, that is like not what you want. So you need to like shut up and reach out to someone and say hi and connect. And a lot of times instead of like saying I'm troubled, I just am like, how are you? Because like I do that. So even I felt yeah, I have lots of
So I'm curious about the part of you that wants to watch anime all day and be an introvert. Can we talk to her for a second?
Sure.
What is she like?
A little hateful, honestly. A little hateful, not really big on people. Growing up, I didn't like people. I really don't like a good chunk of people. I like certain people, and when I like the people, I like love them a lot, you know, like that's part of why I stick on your channel. I like your vibes. I know your vibes and I dig them. But yeah, a lot of people I don't like. And a lot of people were really cruel growing up. And like, it's like I get it from the kids, but like my speech disability affected how adults treated me. And as a kid, like knowing the adults were fucked up is like a whole other thing to go through. You're just like, they have a Hallmark movie on bullying from kids. They don't have one from about the teachers, you know, like, I mean, other than Matilda.
That's true. Yeah.
I
My
did
wife
like
also loves that movie.
Such a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still sick. But
I'm sorry.
yeah. No, I just filled my day with like drawing and reading and anime, and I just make believe, and I video games, and I liked it.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually I had to let people in.
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned from my therapist is that like when we experience trauma, that part of ourselves sort of gets like frozen in time and continues to sort of exist within us, as you know, whatever age and whoever that person was at that time. And so what it sounds like you're describing to me is like I don't know how old she is, but some little girl that went through a really really hard time that she shouldn't have had to have gone through, and is in there really scared and like you know really wants to like isolate and be safe. And I wonder if you've ever if you've ever had a conversation with her that wasn't, like, no, I need to reach out. Have you ever sat with her and like talked things over with her? I know this is sort of weird.
No, it's fine. My therapist actually had me have a conversation with my inner
Yeah.
child at one point
Yeah.
and give her a hug, and like it was the loneliness talk. She's just like, well, why don't you imagine yourself hanging out with her?
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? It was hard to do, but I was able to do it in the end.
What was it like?
Weird.
Totally. Very weird. As I've done it myself, and I know how weird it is. What came up while you were doing it?
It's a lot more quieter of a space. I had to slow my roll.
How was that? Like, did that feel good? Did it feel bad?
Felt forced. It was hard. It's hard. Maybe like you're right. Maybe like it is frozen in time, because it's like I've even read those articles of like the perfectionism and keeping busy as trauma, and I definitely have that. Like I don't slow down, and you've noticed that. You very much like even pointed that out when you're like coming on my stream.
Your networking abilities are insane, girl. Like you're just like constantly like you're everywhere.
And I still feel like I'm nowhere.
Yeah.
That's the ridiculousness.
Yeah. And that's the trap, is that like your mind is your little girl is never gonna let you feel like you're in enough places, because you at your core you have this little girl that is phenomenally lonely.
And so slow down and read with her and draw.
Absolutely. That was sort of like where I was going, which is that like I think that the only way that you'll ever feel like you're in enough places is if you're in a place with her, and like you start to build a relationship with her and you two start to make each other feel comfortable.
You're probably right, actually. I could see that, because it's when I get super high strung, or not high strung, strung out. When I get strung out, it's like my recharges are all the same things I used to fucking love doing. It's like I draw, or I sit and read manga all day, or watch a scary movie, and it's like, and I'm alone, and I like it. I like being alone.
And you never let yourself. Except
it's
in
a
those
problem.
like very occasional recharges.
It got worse. It got worse this year. It's, and even with my ex, like he didn't let me be alone. You know,
so
it's
It's interesting because most of the time I give people the opposite advice. Most of the time I give people the advice that like if they're feeling depressed or sad, that they should surround themselves with people, because being alone when you're depressed or sad is usually sort of like a vicious circle that just ends in horrible misery. But in your case,
I overcompensated.
in your case, I think that you actually need to I think that it would actually be like a really cool sort of like meditative practice for you to like color with your little, and like, you know, watch manga with your little, and like, or, you know, watch anime with your little, and like all that sort of thing. I think that,
oh man, I need a little. I need to be a little.
like what's the word? Intentionally. Like, you know, like you do it already to recharge, but like actually going in with the purpose of like, okay, like me and my little girl are gonna color together today.
I should go full little. I practically am. No, I like that. It's like actually do stuff like, what would my little want to do today?
Yeah.
Would she want to sit here and listen to the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack, or would she like to draw some anime like of characters they have crushes on?
Yeah. And then like as you're sitting there with her coloring or whatever, listening to Phantom of the Opera.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Because you're so good at asking questions and like you know, delving into people, start asking her questions and see where it goes.
Oh shit, I never even thought to do that. That's a cool one.
Because what's really cool is it allows you to sort of bypass that whole city that you've built, and instead you just get to sort of have a direct conversation with that core.
I kind of love that.
Yeah.
Psychology
like hacks.
I love it. I love it.
So I'm excited that this happened because I've been wondering about it, but I didn't want to just bring it up out of the blue. So I'm excited to ask about it. A few times, like when we streamed together, like I would see sort of like, I don't know, like clenching on your face or something like that, and it just happened right now, where like you sort of like squeezed the can and like squeezed your eyes. And I was curious. I was curious. I don't mean to make you self-conscious at all, but I
get nervous.
Yeah. Okay. So it's what are you nervous about?
Attention. Fuck. Very direct. Okay, yeah. I get nervous when attention's on me. It's funny. It's kind of funny as a streamer and as my personality that, especially when I set myself here, it's like I intentionally put myself in spotlights to try and overcome like the introverty side of me. It's kind of ridiculous, but I force kind of the introverty side down. I also get really excited. You should see, oh my God, like I just get full body excited, you know? Like, so I get happy, clenchy too, but.
Yeah. What was your can I ask a little bit about your speech impediment?
Yeah.
Was it a stutter or like what would happen?
I couldn't make words properly, so I had my own little weird language, and no one understood me.
Interesting.
Frustrated the crap out of people. Like I got kicked out of day camp. Like they're like, we don't understand her. You need to pick her up. It's just like, what the fuck?
It must have frustrated the crap out of you because you knew what you were saying.
You know what's even worse is I have trouble with it when like, you know how you get like more frustrated when you're dealing with the same things you've worked past? I feel so bad when I experience that on other kids now because it's just like I just so desperately want to understand them, and it's just like internally I struggle with it because of that. It's like I don't hate them or anything. I keep talking to them, but I'm just sitting there like in this panic talking to them because I don't know what they're saying, and I feel awful for it because I know how that felt, and it's awful.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that. Like, yes, I do think that it must have been incredibly difficult to not be understood. And at the same time, I think that, and again, like, feel free to push back against this, but, like, my guess is that the more frustrating and the more painful part was not that people couldn't understand you. It was that people didn't try and people, like, actively pushed you away.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that was an ongoing thing, like all the time. Like, you know, like I said, like they kicked me out of day camp. Like teachers had issues with me, like based off of like the paperwork that my mom gave me. It was like I knew like 6 words when I was 4, which like my 4-year-old can say like 200 or more words, you know, like it's like I couldn't say anything and be understood. And but yeah, like the kicked out of day camp, there's a lot of issues. Kids didn't want to hang out with me because they didn't understand me. And then, you know, like I had one kid admit to me later that they bullied me specifically because of my speech. They're just like, we didn't like how you talked. It bugged us. And like they literally threw rocks at me. Like it was just like messed up. It's just like it's just ridiculous. Like, and it's just I don't know. It's one of those things I could turn into a positive though. Oh, that's probably not healthy.
Good job. You got it. Good job. Good job.
I get to
Did you see the sort of like manicness of it?
Yeah, no, I fucking
like I could save this.
I can save this. I can turn this around.
Yeah.
No, and it's because I have done a lot of reflection on it. It's like I kind of realized like I had that head above the hurt from a young age, and I fucking hated it all my life because I just like I'm quirky. Let's be real. Um, I wanted to fucking be normal. I couldn't be. I've given up on it at this point, but I really wanted to be for the longest time, and I couldn't. It sucks, but I realized a few years ago because my head was above the herd for so long, it's made me a lot of who I am now that can do better things with it. You know, like I can do a leadership role because of it. You know, I'm not moving along with the herd. I can go to the front and fucking guide it. And I know what it feels like to have that feeling and how to feel that loneliness, to be to have social anxiety, to have all those things, right? And what it's like. And I've turned into something where I kind of try and help others with it. Like in my 20s, I started organizing the events in California. I started the Geek Club and I lured a bunch of social anxiety geeks. And I'm just like, okay, I do the icebreakers now. Hello, hey, you two, you like the same thing, go talk, you know. And then with social anxiety myself, because I was still getting over it, that's what I was becoming, like extroverty. I was just like, oh cool, you guys, you talk, okay, they're best friends now, cool. Like they would become best friends. Some of the people I introduced are like lifelong friends now, and I'm just like ooh, I'm overwhelmed, I need to replenish the chips in the ice, bye. You know, and I'm just like gone. You always have the best excuse to just out.
Sammy, I mean, I think that that's amazing. I think that that's sort of a beautiful thing that you've done for people, and I think that you're turning it into a positive right now.
You know I'm very much turning into a positive.
And so like one of the things that you said was, I wanted so badly to be normal, and I've given up on that.
Yeah.
And I want to push back a little bit there, because I think that the phrase given up on that implies
I still want it.
That and like loss. Like it implies like I don't know quite how to express this, but it says to me that there's still muck in there.
Probably.
You know, instead of like, I think that really the path to sort of like accepting that you were different is realizing that like their normal is a construct. It doesn't really exist. You know what I mean?
Norms. Stupid societal norms.
Right. Right. And what's really awful about societal norms is that they make everyone feel like they are different and they are weird and they wish that they could be normal, because they're looking at all of these people who are pretending to be normal and don't realize that everyone is pretending. And the truth is that no one is normal.
Yeah. And that's like one of my big things too, like the sex love and dating podcast, like just my openness in general. Like I'm just like, stop acting like we're just this fucking little sardine, you know. Like we aren't, and people need to start shouting that they're not the same and stop trying to fit in so much and realize the asset of not fitting in.
Well, that actually, so one of the things that I've been thinking as we've been having this conversation is that there's something called dharma, which is like your sort of like purpose. You're sort of like what you're on this earth here to do.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the things that you've been talking about really say to me that like you're so karma, a lot of people think that karma is like, you know, you somebody does something bad to you and then something bad happens to them. But really, like, all karma means is sort of like the hand you're dealt in life, like sort of how it, you know, like some people are born and I was born a white man who, you know, had a middle class, upper middle class family. So I basically got dealt the best possible hand ever. And then other people were born in like, you know, like ghetto neighborhoods and like, you know, like abusive households and things like that. And so like, you know, different people were dealt different hands. And I think that that karma informs your dharma. So like, depending on what hand you were dealt, it informs like how you go through the world and ultimately like what you're sort of meant to do in the world. And I think that a lot of what you're doing is both sort of like your dharma, like it's sort of the good that you're providing to the world. And I also think, and I think that at this stage in your life, it's probably the more important part. I also think that it is helping to heal you. That by sort of working with, you know, kids with speech impediments and like you know, helping people to meet and all of these different things that you're doing, you're sort of getting to be the adult that you needed.
Oh, that, yeah. I want adults to do better, and I agree. It's like I know we haven't talked too much about this stuff, but like I definitely feel the universe like fucking just, sometimes you just get like little nudges on the directions you're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
I get them like full blown sometimes, like insane amounts, especially after leaving the bad relationship. It's like I'm just shocked sometimes at how much the universe just kind of like stops everything to try and make things go on a different path for me. And I don't know, I started off agnostic when I was younger, but the more I grow up, the more I'm like, holy shit, this pathway thing just keeps happening for me. And I know it's all connected. And like I said, even with the head above the herd, I feel like I had to accept that, and like that is a positive, and I have skills that can benefit people, and I want to use them. And maybe that's why I don't slow down too and nurture my inner child, because I'm just like, I have skills, I need to use them, and I should be doing these things with people instead of doing things with myself. And you know,
Yeah. And what I would really be careful of is like, I think that it's really easy to say like, you know, this is actually a positive, and that it sort of like takes away the symptoms, you know, like taking an Advil. But I think that the real juice is l- keeping it as a negative. You know, like what happened to you wasn't positive at all. It was bad. It shouldn't have happened to you. You shouldn't have had to have gone through that. And recognizing that just because it's bad doesn't mean just because it like was, oh man, I don't know how to say this. The only way that I know how to say this is like, just because it's ugly doesn't make it any better or worse than something that was pretty. Just because it's bad doesn't make it any better or worse than something that was good. Does that make sense? I know that sounds
it
really
evens
weird.
out. No, actually, it kind of makes sense. You're saying it kind of evens out, or it's just maybe you just need to switch the perspective a little bit.
I think that what it ultimately comes down to is like, the more that you can start to see things that happen as just things that happen, the more good and bad start to sort of shift toward the middle. Just like we were talking about how there isn't really any normal.
It's just stuff. It's the blanket theory.
What's the blanket theory?
Maybe it's made up. I saw an I Heart Huckabees.
No, no, tell me. I'm so curious. I love
Just
I
that
love
we're
nerding.
all connected. I don't know. It's probably not even called that. It's just the general connection of the universe, and that it's all one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just we're all part of the blanket, and like the good and bad, the evil and good. It's just a thing, and it's all connected, and
Right,
it's
just sort of like a construct.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just everything's there. I don't know. I probably didn't explain that great, but um,
No, I,
I think
I
I,
think
I think I get it. Huh?
you
Do
s-
a thing.
you did a thing. Did you catch it? Do you know what it is?
Did I wince my eye and shrug?
No, 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 no. It was what you said.
Which one? What did I say?
When you said, I probably didn't explain it good.
Oh yeah, yeah. I get it's the speech disability. I'm
Mm.
convinced I talk awful, even though I'm told no one even knows. But I still,
And did you say, I thought I remembered hearing you say, like, one time when we were streaming together that, like, sometimes it'll still come out.
yeah,
So, like, do
yeah.
you have to constantly sort of, like, be actively not doing it?
Somewhat, somewhat. I think it's just like in my subconscious still, where I am focusing on how I talk. But it's like I think that's why I write better than I talk. Um, but I have so much process. I describe as there's a lot of processing that goes on when I am speaking,
Yeah.
because I am scrutinizing everything I say, and I'm trying to say the right things. I'm trying to make sure I say them properly. And I laugh it off half the time because I just, it can be a source of entertainment. But yeah, I'll drop my R's when I'm drunk very quickly. Like all it takes is a few drinks and my R's are gone, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that the laughing it off is, uh, my cat is scratching her scratch post, is a mechanism that a defense mechanism that you've built, and it's defense mechanisms are there for a reason. They're there to protect us, and when you're like processing stuff, they can get in the way of you being able to process stuff. They'll sort of block you from being able to metabolize that stuff that you're working with.
I never thought of it that way. That makes sense.
And so that the sort of like technical psychological term for that is, we develop behaviors that are adaptive, so they help us adapt to our current environment, and then over time as we go through life, those adaptations, when we no longer need them, become maladaptive, where they're actually hurting us rather than helping us now.
Huh.
And
You
so,
know,
like, go ahead,
hmm
go ahead,
no, I'm going to go on a whole tangent. So
do it.
you just made me, okay. Um, so my speech disability used to make people angry. Angry. It's
Hmm.
ridiculous. Angry because I mixed up a word, I don't get it. I don't get people. And so yeah, like a lot of how I am is definitely like diffused with humor. I am very big on like processing trauma with humor, or just fixing a situation with humor, and just all the positives that come from it. And so yeah, anything angry, I think that is my response, is to just kind of diffuse with humor. And it's always been a thing. And I know people who get more angry when I do that too. They're like, "You're supposed to be mad right now. Why are you laughing?" I'm just like, like,
Yeah.
my car broke down. I'm gonna get a hot dog. It's all cool. It's like, no, be stressed, be upset. No, I don't do. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have noticed that throughout this conversation, some of the like worst things that you've talked about, you've had a big old grin on your face while you've been talking about it.
I wonder if that's just like a weird, awkward reaction, or if I'm actually enjoying myself in those moments. I'll have to go back and watch that.
I think that
Comment below. I think this is a YouTube later.
I think that oftentimes what it is, and this could be off base, but I think that oftentimes what it is that, uh, we don't know how to react, and so the only way that we can react is with that defense mechanism.
Yeah, I feel so incredibly awkward.
I know, and I think it's
uh,
good. I think it's good for so like So in ideal function, the way that our emotions work is that they just sort of like flow through us, right? Like we feel angry and like then we let it go and we move on, etc. And so then like
Reminders are great.
what sort of happens is like uh when we block that, so like let's say like your car breaks down and like you start to feel really upset, but then like your defense mechanism kicks in, like you block it with humor, is that anger gets like stuck somewhere in the flow inside of you, and so it just sort of like sits there and festers. And then another thing happens and just sort of sits there and festers and builds and builds and builds and builds until eventually, and I'm taking another shot in the dark here, you have some sort of breakdown at some point. I imagine that there are probably times in your life, yeah, where it all just sort of, it has to get out somewhere. And so
Horror movies. I watch horror movies. It's a de-stressor.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Or yeah, video. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have de-stressors. I do. And I think I let some of it out that way. But yeah, maybe it is stuck. Maybe that's why I rant. Maybe I should not rant. Maybe I should fix the solution and be angry and not rant because I fixed the angries that I'm not acknowledging.
Yeah, like allowing yourself to be angry, or allowing yourself to feel angry, or allowing something to be a negative.
Everyone else is allowed to be angry. Why can't I be angry? Everyone wants me to be angry. That's like the biggest thing people have like criticized me on this past year is they're like, you need to be angry about your ex. And I'm just like, you know, and I'm having trouble. I have trouble.
Do you want to be angry?
I want to be angry at him. But then I get sad instead.
Well, I think that anger, I think it's actually good, because I think that anger is the protector emotion. Anger sort of like, you know, keeps guard over the other emotions to keep them safe. So if you're immediately getting to the sad, I think that that's okay.
That's okay.
What do you?
Someone tells me I should be mad.
What are you sad about?
That happened.
Mm-hmm.
The lack of protections. The vulnerability. You know, I'm so selective with who I let in close, and I let in the wrong person. Not good.
No. So a big part of sort of like what I do when I work with people is I just sort of try to help them notice things, and it's not in any way meant to make you feel like self-conscious or make you feel like you're doing something bad or wrong, because that's sort of the opposite. I'm trying to do the opposite. But like in this moment when like you're feeling really vulnerable and like you're sort of feeling these feelings, your whole like body language changed for a second. Did you feel that?
Hey, I do the smile. I do this. Yeah, you're right. I do that. Damn it. Now I notice it. I'm giggling and smiling when I shouldn't be, and I don't feel it, and it's stupid. But no, and I'm definitely stiff. And like even when you're saying the flowing through you, it's like I just like tense up and keep everything in. That's probably not a healthy thing to do.
So Sammy, I'm gonna break you for a second.
Oh no!
I'm just gonna sort of like make you sort of glitch out for a second, because in doing this you're actually
I have a reboot button tattoo.
You're actually beating yourself up further. Do you see that?
Am I?
Yeah, because you just said like, oh, like I shouldn't do that. Like I'm so stupid.
No, yeah, no, I have some self blame a lot. I do
now you're doing it again. Do you see it? It's this infinite. Gosh. It's this infinite cycle where like you can't help, like no matter what you do, you're beating yourself up. Because if you are beating yourself up, then you're gonna beat yourself up for beating yourself up, and you're gonna beat yourself up for beating yourself up. And so like there's sort of two solutions. The first solution is that like you have to be okay with beating yourself up. And you have to be okay with the fact that you tense up. And you have to be okay with the fact that you use humor as a defense mechanism and that you smile when you should be crying. You have to be okay with all that. All that you have to be okay that you don't feel angry. All that you have to accept all of that. And then when you can't, inevitably, when you start beating yourself up, just run through that brain glitch. Just run through like, oh, I'm beating myself up for beating myself up. That's so stupid. Oh, dang it. I'm beating myself up for beating until your brain just breaks. Until your brain just completely breaks. And then when your brain completely breaks like that, every time that you do that, it's going to unravel that mechanism a little bit more. That mechanism that you have in place is going to get a little bit weaker and a little bit weaker each time.
So it's kind of the same thing as addiction. It's like anytime like you acknowledge it and even like delay it just a little bit, you're breaking the power to the system.
I actually know very little about addiction. This is the second time that I'm remembering you bring up addiction in this conversation. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I don't have like that. I've heard people talk about addiction. I know because
Okay.
my ex was an alcoholic, so it's like I know some of it from that. I know from some philosophy and psychology people that have talked
Cool.
about it as well. They're interesting. But every time, so pretty much like you make a ball, and so like this is like the addiction, right? And every single time you enable it, so you have a cigarette, it just gets a little bit bigger, right? But every time you say no, even if it's just 5 minutes where you resist a cigarette, you make it a little smaller. So it's like it becomes a demon over time. That's why like the longer you're hooked on something, it's the harder to break it because you bait into this, you know?
Yeah.
Huge. And so you just gotta kind of break down little patterns. It's like, especially me, is like I am overweight. I have some food addiction stuff, right? And I know there's like small little triggers and I crack down at them all the time. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm not gonna eat like when this triggers me anymore. And I break it down. Still fat, but I can at least break the cycle to keep me from gaining weight, you know? So, but no, I think it does like translate to a lot of different things.
Totally.
So in the cycle too, the being myself up, I just got to acknowledge it and start breaking it. So
Yeah, one of the things that makes me think of that's really cool and interesting. One of the things that makes me think of that I learned recently is that normally relapses of any kind, like one of the ones that I learned about was like with suicide. Normally, like when people actually commit suicide, like decide to do that, or like when people, have relapses with drugs or alcohol or whatever, it's normally a very, very brief period of time in which they decide to do it. So like with like failed suicide attempts, a lot of the time they'll ask people like, when did you decide to do this? And normally like the most common version is not like some super like long planned out thing. It's like it was like 5 minutes. And so the sort of the sort of positive side of that is that if you can sort of like make it through the 5 minutes, so like you were talking about like with food addiction, like when you're like, God, I really want to eat something right now, if you can sort of make it through that initial like, God, I really want something right now, usually the intensity of it passes fairly quickly. Have you experienced that at all?
like, yeah, I've experienced things.
It's okay to be like, no. Normally, if I want to eat something, it lasts for hours.
Oh, the food stuff, like, yeah, it's like, um, the first five is the bad one. The time when you like, I always think of it in the same terms of if I could say no for 5 minutes, it's at least you're making it weaker. But like, yeah, there's times where you're just so craving something and it's still there an hour. And like, there's times where I've put off a craving for days and I'm like, it's still here. Why is it still here? Like, it's been days. It should have gone away within an hour. Like, this is ridiculous.
Totally,
So
yeah.
then I give in at that point. I'm like, 2 days is too long.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling about the conversation so far?
We've actually, I thought we were going to like defocus on like one topic, but I kind of like that we've kind of been like around and hit on like so many different interesting elements.
Cool. Yeah, I
And
mean,
they're all connected.
yeah, because they're all
It's
about
the
you.
brain. Yeah, that too. And yeah, you've noticed things I actually didn't notice about myself, so I always appreciate that. But yeah, it's also very awkward because I'm getting the spotlight and I'm weird about the spotlight. So
Because even I imagine that even when you stream, while you are like in the spotlight, I'm I I'm sure that you really make it about your community. It's really not about you.
I always describe it as like there's the people who want the spotlight, and like I end up in a spotlight, but I'm like, hey, other person, come here with me, like, and I want everyone in the spotlight. I just imagine this happy space where everyone's just having a good time, and I try and facilitate that the best I can because, like I said, especially for like the introverts and the social anxiety and the geeks, because I grew up when geek culture was fucking awful, like to people, like they hated you for it, and it's really hard. I've saw a lot of people really struggle with that, and like I think a lot of them are carrying crazy baggage because of it now. There's a few big geek traumas, but like personality changes because of it. But yeah, it's same thing wanted. It's just to be kind of seen and accepted for a bit, and to have that fun and feel normal for a bit. So mm, we just my if anyone is like relating to this out there, if they are watching this later and they're relating to it, maybe you're relating to it, I don't know. But my therapist did have me go through my childhood at some point, right? And like she said, like think of the good memories, and like you get all those nostalgia movies about your childhood best friends and all those moments, right? And that's the ones they always pump out. And then I realized I did have a good childhood. I was alone, but riding my bike alone was beautiful memories, and spending days just drawing or reading, like I love those memories. And so my childhood's not a universally Hollywood movie version, but I love those moments. And I think most geeks, where they might feel like they got cheated from that experience, it's like we're going to have a different one, and chances are they have something good there. I don't know. You're processing. Are you about to say I have another bad habit? Oh no.
No,
Break the habit. Stop,
no,
stop.
no, no, no. I the I'm trying to think how to say it. Are you really uncomfortable right now?
I don't know if it's good or bad,
Tell
but
tell
there's something you
t-
see.
tell me about the discomfort.
You see something on me, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if I know it even. It's
All
weird being
all
seen.
all that I'm seeing is I'm seeing all of the sort of like machinery working around you. Does that make sense?
Is it the cities?
Yeah.
Am I just like, is the city so built around me? And I've done Pink Floyd, I've built the wall. I'm just sitting here like, no, get away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, fuck. That's a
Yeah.
bad thing, isn't it?
It's just a thing.
It's the thing.
It's just a thing. It's not good. It's not bad. We're not gonna.
Oh,
We're not gonna make it. We're not gonna make it a positive. We're not gonna.
it's just
We're
the
not gonna.
universe.
It's just a thing. And uh, Rosie, who's a member of my community, often tells me that a lot of my work that I do with people is just about noticing stuff. And so like one of the things that I encourage you to really start noticing is every time that you like make something a positive, just notice it.
Uh-oh.
Just notice it
So, so yes,
and see what
like
happens.
everything.
Right.
Yeah. Oh crap! Everything I do it every. I've done
Everywhere.
it like 10 times. I've probably done it 20 times this week, maybe more.
I think you've done it 20 times this conversation.
Oh my god, I probably have. Isn't that a good thing though?
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
How does that feel when I say it's a thing?
It's a thing uneasy.
It makes you
I
uneasy.
don't know.
What makes you
I
uneasy? What about it feels uneasy?
I want to defend it.
Hmm?
I want to defend it.
You want to defend what?
That it's a good thing. That has a positive spin to it.
What happens if something isn't positive?
There's things that you just can't find positives about. I think I get lost on those because I don't know how to make sense of them. But other than life has bad things, you know, those things make me sad.
I don't think so. I am struggling to find something that you haven't made a positive of. I think that you are phenomenal at this. I don't I
No, there's. I could say things. I could say things that make me sad. That like are sad. I
no,
have
I
a
mean
positive spot.
I do think that
Oh God,
you
I'm
have
doing it in my own head. Oh no!
I do think that you have acknowledged things that are sad and that are bad. And they always have some good reason or outcome attached to them.
I literally just in my head. I had a friend who passed away, but I was so grateful for the chance to know them. Oh my God, I really do this really badly. Oh my gosh.
Are you beating
No,
yourself up
yeah, I do
for it?
with everything. Oh my God, I am. Damn it.
So
This is bad.
just remember, I don't know if it will be useful for you, so you'll have to let me know. But I do find it very useful when I start doing that, because I'm also very guilty of beating myself up. When I start doing that, to just sort of break my mind for a second, it helps a lot. Just be like, oh no, I'm beating myself up for beating myself up. That's so dumb. Oh no, I'm beating myself up. Oh no, I'm beating myself up. And eventually, it's just like, and then it breaks down a little bit.
Wow, I really wired up a machine here.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm seeing it.
and here that's great. I'm so excited to hear that because you know the cliche phrase of like um you know realizing that you have a problem is the first step. The reason that that is so true is because noticing things causes change.
Yep, you can't fix alcoholism if you don't even accept you're an alcoholic. You
Right.
know, like yeah.
Right. And so like I I don't know, but it sort of is feeling to me like this is the first time that you're actually like seeing this giant machine.
I am. This is killing me because I'm going through even that. I'm just like, oh yeah, like when my ex was an alcoholic, now I know so much about alcoholism and I can share it with others. I'm like, what am I doing in my head?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy crap! I
And that's
really
the
do
thing
this.
is that like your mind is brilliant. Like it is just so good at building these mechanisms for us, for everyone. Everyone does this. It's so good at this. And it's for a good reason, Sammy. It's for a positive reason. It's to protect us. It's to help us survive.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Sammy, is that now you now you're safe. Now you're an adult that has agency and that can protect herself and has resources and has people that are available to her that that can help her. And so you don't need these ginormous mechanisms to protect you anymore. And shedding those mechanisms is one of the scariest things ever, because all of a sudden it's just you. But just remember, when you feel like it's just you, that it's not just you. That you also have people here that want to help and support you. And one of the things that I've been learning is that when you provide value in relationships, which is all you do, by the way, Sammy, you just heckin' dole it out like dollar bills at a strip club. When you provide value, people naturally feel inclined to provide value back. Now, is everyone going to do that? No. Are some people just going to take? Absolutely. But that being said, I think that for the most part, the majority of people really are good at heart and really do sort of, when people provide value, they have a natural inclination to provide value back. So I have no doubt, Sammy, that given how generous and giving and loving you are, that you are never going to be alone, even once you take off this ginormous, heavy, terrifying backpack mechanism that you've made. It's going to be scary as heck, but you're never going to be alone.
That's scary.
Yeah. Damn right it is.
I think the nice ex, part of I really liked him was I was able to take all that off, and he actually enjoyed that side better. So I think I'm a little sad I lost that, but it was my choice too. So I want to get that with everyone. I want to, yeah.
Sammy, I really like you without your backpack too. And I think that one of the reasons that you struggle so much to connect with people is because you have a big honking robot that is surrounding you at all times. So the more that you can take it off and lay it down and sort of, let people interact with you, I think that problem will sort of melt away.
Get out of the robot, Sammy.
Get out of the robot, Sammy.
Don't get in the robot, Shinji. Get out of the robot, Sammy. Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. Reference. You did really, really good. I don't know if you felt it, but like you really sat in it for a good amount of time. Did you feel that?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. You hit on some really interesting points and things I didn't actually really notice I was kind of caught in a cycle of. Okay, I have to figure out why I had that robot up to begin with.
Well, I think we've definitely found. I'm sure there's more, but I think that we've definitely found quite a few reasons, like the fact that adults and kids bullied you like crazy when you were little because you couldn't express yourself, and the fact that you were in an abusive relationship or multiple abusive relationships. Those things, during times like that, we have to survive, and so our mind does whatever it needs to do that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You're right. It's like, yeah, I don't want to take up anything negative in this space, and so I've built this cycle up to avoid doing that. To only add positive into spaces.
And now it's safe for you to take up negative space. What is your reaction or thoughts or feelings when I say that?
I'm like, ooh, how should I do that? The raccoon side of me is like, mischief. But then I'm still going from mischief.
You're like, I want to do crime.
Big gay do crime. I am, yeah, and I am ready. I'm ready to stand on my own and maybe not be perfect. Let go of the perfectionism for a bit. Yeah. Yay! Sorry.
Did your mind go? Did your mind go? Am I ready to stand on my own and let go of the
No, I
perfectionism?
do know that. I do
no.
know
I just
that.
I saw your I saw your face like it almost looked like you were like, am I? What?
Oh man, maybe. Maybe I'm in denial over it. I'm just like, you need to. I'm like pushing myself out of the nest. Like, get the
I'm just
fuck out.
I'm just throwing out theories. I don't claim to know or anything. I'm just noticing.
No, it's I pushed myself out. I pushed myself out, and I need to be on my own 2 feet, and I'm scared as fuck to not be in a relationship. Scared as fuck to do it, but I gotta finish healing from. Shouldn't have been even in a relationship, and I knew that for ages. But I gotta heal up from the rest of that crap that I went through, and really actually look at it and look at it through myself, and not. Yeah, I gotta figure it out.
So there's two sides to this coin. The first is like, I think that, you know, it's good for you to take off the backpack and stand on your own 2 feet and all that jazz. And like, if you have found that like you cannot be out of a relationship, then like I don't really know that pattern all too well. And what I would and it is also okay to do this and be in a relationship, because what might happen is you might get to a point where you're like, I'm not going to get into a relationship until I'm fixed, until I'm better.
Nah, not so. No, I just. I'm like demisexual, so it's like I need to have that bond, and I'm not there with people because I don't get there with people when I'm in a relationship. And so I'm kind of realizing that pattern of like, hey, it's not going to happen overnight, but I hope I can start getting close to people, strengthening friendships, and maybe one of those friendships will become a real thing. And like, not a real thing, but like, a relationship-y thing. And it's gonna take time, and I know, yeah, I know I need to stop picking certain types of people, and I need to pick the ones that will hopefully not have the same backpack. But then again, we could start a mecha anime series if we did. um but yeah, I want ones that like do want to focus on bringing kindness and focus on ambitions and making good things happen, creating, just creating in general.
And
So no more stoics.
Helping you take the backpack off.
Huh?
Helping you take the backpack off.
Yeah, I give a lot, and like I have had partners give to me too. I'm not gonna say they don't, because they have, and I just want ones where I don't know. Maybe I'm too self-focused. I sorry. I'm going through a breakup, so I'm like a little. I'm still a little head fucked.
I think it helps actually, because you're a little more raw. You like your defense mechanisms don't work as well because you're just too hurt. It's like a gazelle with a injured leg can't run as good from a lion. I hate to illustrate myself as a predator here, but you said something interesting though. You said maybe I'm just too self-focused.
Yeah.
What's that?
I worry that in relationships I get too selfish and focused on myself. Because I date Stoics, and then I don't know. The one I
Sammy,
just broke up with called me selfish. So
Sammy, I want to respect the boundary that you set at the beginning of this conversation by saying like you don't want to get into details about the most recent relationship, and at the same time like I think that you thinking of yourself as selfish uh, is I'm a little confused because everything that we've talked about during this conversation is exactly the opposite. And I actually, like, two tentacle tantras ago, uh, the one that I had with Cuddle, one of the big concepts that we talked about is that usually if you are a giver, which Sammy, I'm just going to tell you flat out, you are 100% a giver. Usually if you're a giver, you feel like a taker. And other people are going to make you feel like a taker because they're takers. So I saw some emotion sort of burst out of you there. What hit a nerve?
because I'm conflicted because I know I'm a giver, but
Yeah,
I also feel like a taker.
yeah.
But I feel like they might be right. And like that's the other thing that like gets me kind of, what if they are right? And what if at a certain point when I do get close to people I just take? Because I feel it's okay to take and then it's not okay. What if I can't be in a I'm just telling myself I can't be close to people and it's stupid. Break the pattern.
Sam, Sammy, I think good job, good job. You caught it. Good job,
Look at how.
Sammy. I think that interestingly enough, I think that what your ex may have been expressing is the opposite of what he said. Because he said that you were selfish, but I imagine the reason that he felt like you were selfish, and I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything, but I'm just theorizing here, is because he felt like you wouldn't let him take care of you, which in its own weird way is kind of selfish. You are such a huge giver that you won't let other people take care of you. And I can speak authoritatively on this cuz I'm also one of those people, Sammy. I also struggle with that. When I was younger, it was in high school and I was really close with this girl and the friendship didn't work out. And later on, like a few years later, I had this realization. I was like, none of my friends have really ever seen me cry. Like, I've seen all of my friends cry, and none of my friends have seen me cry. And I texted randomly, I don't know why I did, but I texted her about it. I was like, I just realized I've seen all my best friends cry, and none of my best friends have seen me cry. And I was expecting her to be like, oh, yeah, like, your best friends, they don't take care of you. Your best friends, they don't look out for you. Instead, what she said is, yeah, it's a wall you put up. And
Oh, fucking right at it. Holy shit.
I was like, oh crap.
Pleasurable, man.
This is me. So similarly, I think that, and again, like I could totally be wrong. I really don't want to put words in your ex's mouth, but I think that what he may have been trying to express is not that, you're some terrible taker, but rather that he desperately wants to be able to take care of you because he thinks that you deserve that, and he wants that intimacy with you, and you won't let him have that because it's so fucking scary.
That's a sweet concept. That's not what happened here, but like I can see that. I can definitely see other people have that. Um, no, it's I think it was a
It could also have
I,
been him lashing out in anger because of
there's
the
a few things
situation.
it could have been. It could have been. I think it was ADD, and like you know how ADD people like if you get in an intense conversation, sometimes they get a little like spacey, and I
No,
think
but
oh, it's a thing. It's a thing. ADHD people sometimes we get like a little sidetracked and we have trouble focusing on a conversation. Um, and so like we can kind of get derailed, especially if we don't know it's like a sit down formatted conversation. And I think I've done that to
oh,
people in my life. And hey, maybe that's why I don't have intimate friends too. Um, um, maybe they think I'm not interested.
because
But
like you'll
really,
be having a conversation, like a serious conversation, then like you'll space out, and then they're like, you weren't even listening to me.
but you are, you're trying, or
Yeah, because from what I understand about it, it's like it's actually not that like your brain isn't working, it's that your brain is working too well. It's that like you have so much going on in your brain at once that like one thing is not enough to hold your attention. You need a whole lot more.
yeah, it can be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
If I just focus on one thing, sometimes I just fall asleep.
Yeah. Me too, actually. Definitely. If I like am not doing anything, I'm gonna fall asleep.
Yeah, don't know what's credible, what's not, but definitely will keep an eye in my next relationship to make sure the criticisms are at least reflected on a little bit. A little bit of a positive spin, not as bad as my other ones.
No, I think that that's a good thing. I think what I heard you say just now is like in my relationships going forward, when people criticize me, I'm gonna, instead of just like immediately taking it at face value, I'm gonna examine it a little bit. And
Yeah.
I think like that's part of the like not being a doormat thing. Is like when you're a doormat, anything that anyone says to you has to be true. Like if I said, if I was a terrible tentacle tantress, if I was like, Sammy, you're just a horrible, selfish human being, and you really need to change everything about yourself. You would just be like, "Yep, I'll change."
Do you have doormat vibes?
Do I have doormat vibes?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've met people like that and they're submissives, and I've seen some submissives like that.
It's complicated with me. Everything's complicated with me. Um, it's complicated with me because on the one hand, I think that I can be in some ways, but on the other hand, I also know that a lot of people are really afraid of me. Like in past communities that I've built, people would message Birdie to talk to me because they were too afraid to talk to me themselves.
But
But
you're
like
so happy and sweet.
I wasn't.
Oh my goodness.
It's been a it's been
Oh,
a it's been a pretty uh significant shift. I had a lot of self-hate that got projected in a lot of places and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway, that's neither hither nor thither. Um but uh but yeah, so and I do think that there are definitely submissive there are areas of my submissiveness that come from me struggling with feeling allowed to exist. But that's my stuff, and we can talk about my stuff, but not here. That's not that
Okay.
that's not
I
what this
want
is
to.
for.
I want
Yeah,
to another
we
time.
totally can.
Okay.
Maybe I can you know I,
Return
you
of love,
know
sex, dating. It's just going to be love, sex, and dating, tentacle tech every time.
I love it. Have you done any more episodes?
No, I'm trying to get more guests coming up. I think I might have this really awesome person, Bagel Rabbit, who's like, he does electric violin music, and he's a furry, non-binary, and just like looks like, I swear, it's like one step away from being like a furry equivalent of like Dr. Frankenfurter, because they have like their makeup like perfect like Frankenfurter style, and like I'm just like I'm always and like bondagey, and like I'm just like I love your vibes every time. I love it here.
That's awesome. That's
He
awesome.
said it's like I'm like him 30% imperviness. I'm just like, how dare you? I wonder what I'd say about your channel.
So
You probably
Sammy,
got one.
I wanna check in. We're getting close to the 2 hour mark, which is usually sort of where like I'll start to like wrap things up. So I want to check in and like first ask like where your head is at, what things you're thinking about, and then like ask if you have any questions, if you're reflecting on anything, just sort of like get a vibe from you and see if there's anything that you want to delve into a little bit further.
We hit on a lot of really interesting things, and I am pulling a lot from it. A lot. Um, like the perfectionism, and like that you're just like you point out the cycle that I've like kind of put this like happy thing in overkill, this gratefulness, and like you're too grateful. You need to stop. Like, don't be that grateful. God damn it. Let some anger, let some sadden. Like, and I do let the sadden, but I need to make sure I let the emotions flow through me. And I think you stating that like all you're talking about is like doing things for others, and you're sitting here saying that you're selfish, and it's like I could be accidentally selfish. I don't mean to be, and I fucking hate when I hear I am, because I don't mean to be, and like I immediately just panic like how could I have done that better, and like it's stupid. So yeah, I just I need to let myself fuck up or just be normal. And I think you're right. There's a big machine here and big backpack, and I just gotta kind of unpack it a bit. Yeah.
I mean, that was a fantastic summation. Thank you. And uh, you have the. I'm sure that there's probably more, but two of the main components, or the main sort of functions that I've seen of your machine. There's the like, there's the happy cog that turns and makes everything happy, and then there's also the like beat yourself up cog. And what's really cruel about the way that this machine is set up is that when the happy cog doesn't kick in, the beat yourself up cog kicks in. So
Yeah.
you're sort of on double duty in terms of noticing, where when you notice the happiness, that's great, notice the happiness, but then be careful that while you're noticing the happiness, the beat yourself up cog doesn't start turning. Does that make sense?
It does. That does. And I do need to figure a way to be a little more baseline too, because it's just I know there's a lot of different elements to my personality out there, and like they're all me, but they're all different vibes. I need to chill on the positive spins, because sometimes, yeah, I don't know.
So I don't
I,
know.
I I I don't know.
I yeah, I don't know if I want to say I want to leave you with this, Sammy, but I don't know if this will be a I want to leave you with this thing or if we'll need to delve into it further. But I don't think that you need to be anything. I think that the problem is that people have been telling you that you need to be something other than you your entire life. And I think that now a big part of that journey of standing on your own 2 feet is just being you. And sort of all that I'm trying to do is to help sort of strip away some of the machine that's attached to you. It is not in any way to try to make you be something other than you, because what you are and who you are is enough.
Yeah, you're right. And you said like I need to make time for my inner child, and I think I am going to, because that's the thing I should nurture. I sit there and nurture other things. I'm watering
Other
everyone
people.
else's lawn, and I need to water mine a little bit more.
Totally.
Um, but it makes me happy to make people smile. You know, so
Yeah.
I need
And
to nurture myself.
I think that is part of you, and that's a perfectly acceptable part of you. There's nothing, you are perfect just the way you are, Sammy. And so if you want to nurture other people, nurture other people. Just don't forget to nurture yourself too.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel angry, you don't have to force yourself to feel angry. But when your car breaks down, it's okay to be kind of upset about it and let that, run its course.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll try that. I'll try that. I'll be angry.
Or upset or sad, whatever it is. Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be any particular thing. It's just whatever is. Whatever's there. And one of the things that I would recommend, just because I think that it's a good recommend, like, therapy is something that I recommend to everybody, but another thing that I'm starting to recommend to everybody is to meditate. Because what meditation does, a lot of people think that meditation is sort of the act of like not thinking, but really the not thinking is sort of like the end result. Because what meditation is really about is it's letting that flow happen. It's sitting and watching that flow. And
I did it
then,
when I first
yeah,
I did when I first moved out. I was just so tense, and it was the a few moments I could actually release and relax. And...
yeah, yeah. And so, like, what happens is, like, once you meditate for a long, long time and you let all that stuff flow out, then you're left with this sort of, like, beautiful emptiness because you've let everything sort of flow through you. And so for you especially, I think it would be really, really helpful because you can sit there and let all of those things that are stuck inside you just sort of bubble up. Just be like, oh, I'm really freaking angry at my abusive ex. Oh, I'm really, really scared about opening up to anybody. Oh, I'm really, really stuck in this cycle of turning things positive. Oh, I'm really, really beating myself up all the time. Oh, I really, really hate making time for myself. All that stuff will just start sort of bubbling up, and you just sort of let it flow. Just let it flow through you. And then eventually it flows out. Not just with meditation. I don't pitch meditation as a cure all. I don't think that it is, but I think that it's something that can help.
Yeah. No, I felt benefits from it. I should resume it. I need to resume a lot of things. This year, the first year out is just about like getting back and like surviving, and then like I want to refocus on myself when September hits and start doing the good things for myself. So
You said when September hits.
yeah.
What is what's
That's
the
the one
delay?
year out.
Oh, gotcha.
So I just it's been a year. And I just so much paperwork, so much everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be my conscious thing of like, okay, you made it and now you need to take care of yourself. You've had that
Yeah.
year of stress and processing and you need to take care of yourself better now. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Be careful that it's not a New Year's resolution, okay? Do
no,
you know what I
it
mean?
won't be. Yeah, no, I'm gonna. It's been a quite like at least half a year since I was on keto, and I want to go back into ketosis because I feel good on it too. It's I had to cut corners to make it this year. So
Sure.
next year, less corner cutting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
And
predetermined when I set a goal.
yeah. And it's funny that you said that because I was actually just about to say that I think that the reason that New Year's resolutions usually fail is because they're goals. And I think typically goals can be helpful in certain contexts, but for things like self-improvement and like, healing, I think that they can often make us feel more behind.
Yeah.
You know?
Um, I do mine weird. I do mine weird. I do mine like challenges. And then I get really stubborn and all into it. So, like I'll say, I date like 30 days of Jackbox or 31 days of horror games. I've done those things. And then or like 1 month of like keto, it's like I could do that once I said it. I'm just like, yeah, look at me rock. It's like if you have that end date, it helps. So,
Interesting. Interesting.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wired silly.
Huh.
So,
Well, Sammy, I am really excited for you.
thank you.
I think that for me, I think that like my favorite when I was little, I used to drive my parents crazy because I would just sit in like on long road trips. I would just sit in the back of the car and I'd be like, "What's your favorite this? What's your favorite that?" I've always been obsessed with favorite things.
Oh my God, me too. People
Yeah,
hate those questions for some reason.
I love them. I love big X-Those. So I think that for me, my favorite part of this conversation was when you said something along the lines of like, like I'm seeing this machine. I think, like I said, like the fact that you saw it during the course of this conversation gives me like so much hope.
Thank
I'm
you. That's
so
actually one of my favorites too.
that was your favorite moment too.
It's wild. Like I literally was just like, oh my gosh, I have my
There's
own
all this stuff on
own
my back. What's going on? What is this?
and Evangelion goes into like existential stuff too, and like yeah, psychology. And I'm just like, oh well, there we go. I'm just like quoting Evangelion in my head too. I'm like, okay, so I gotta get out of the robot.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really hopeful for you, and I'm excited to see what happens, and keep in touch, check in, let me know if there's any sort of like fallout or anything because of this, like
Like
if
with
all
me,
the
suffer with you.
no, like if all of a sudden like you're going through life and you're like, oh my god, I can't even like function anymore because all I'm noticing is like my coping mechanisms. I just can't handle it. What's going on? And like, because I would I would hate to cause any make things worse instead of better. It's definitely my intention to help. Um,
Hopefully it's better.
Yeah. So just let me know. Keep in touch. And any last things that you want to ask about or say anything about anything like that?
I just want to talk to you more. I don't know. Thank you so much for doing this with me and
Of course.
walking me through this. You really hit on a lot of stuff I didn't even notice about myself, and at least 5 things, at least, and
At
that's pretty
least five
incredible.
things.
At
Top five.
least. Oh my goodness, the top five.
No.
You've
I was just making a joke
see
at
that for
the.
a YouTube video.
Yeah, exactly. I was just making a joke about clickbait. Um, yeah, and oh, I remember. I almost forgot what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, oh, if you're in a space where you need support and you don't feel like you have it, reach out to this community because one of the things that I'm starting to build. So like for the first time ever in my community, people are actually using the voice chat. Like I've built like I don't know 4 or 5 discords and people have never used voice chat. And for the first time ever, people are starting to use the voice chats, and I really like that. I'm really excited about that. And so so today I posted a little announcement about some like new Discord channels that I made. So there's the Talking Tentacles channel, which is like the classic voice chat channel. And then there's Mini TTs, which is mini tentacle tantras, where like people in the community can just sort of like help each other out for like, when I'm not available because I'm only one guy. And there's Meditate Together, where we can sort of like encourage like good habits to sort of like meditate with each other. There's Clean Together, where you can just sort of like hang out and like work on the humdrum stuff together. And then there's Watch Parties, where obviously, if you want to watch things with people. So like, if you're feeling like you're in a place where you don't have someone that you can lean on when you need somebody to lean on, feel free to reach out. I might not be able to always be the one to help, but hopefully there will be someone in the community that can.
I love it. I want to do these things. I want to go meditate in there.
Yeah, I actually haven't meditated today. Normally I meditate first thing in the morning, right after my workout. But this morning I've been working really hard at some things for my career, and I've been exhausted because of it. And so this morning, I knew it was going to be an intense day because Fridays always are for me, just in terms of some stuff that I have to process. Like process at work, not like process psychologically.
Okay, I was going to say, is this your therapy day?
No. And
Mine's
so
Tuesday.
I woke up at 6 like I normally do, and I was like, no, man, I need the extra sleep. So instead of going and working out and meditating, I reset my alarm for 7 and slept the extra hour, and I do not regret it at all. I was very happy about it. But that being said, if you would like to meditate with me, like I'll stop the tentacle tantra and we can like go into the like meditate together channel, and we can I use an app called Headspace, and I can just sort of like play on my phone. And
I've
like
always wanted to use that one.
yeah. So
I just put on classical music.
what was that?
I just put on classical music.
So Headspace is that there's no music. It's like a guided meditation. So like they just sort of walk you through sort of like where to sort of like how to think about things while you're meditating, or how to be while you're meditating, basically. So if you're interested in that, we could
I would love that, actually.
Okay,
Like I said, I've wanted to check out this app, so
let's heck and do it. So thank you so much for doing this, and I'm gonna stop recording, and then we'll hop in, okay?
bye, people. I'll see you in meditation.